Let me introduce my partners in this panel very briefly. Let's start out with Mr. György László, who is the director of the Padma Foundation and also an associate professor of the Budapest University of Technology and Economics, and also a chief economist at the Századvég Institute. We have also here in this panel Mr. Zhao Dongwei, who is the director of the Department of Institutions of China Financial Assets Exchange at the People's Bank of China. Also, we have here Mr. Altay Atli, who is a research associate at the Istanbul Policy Center in Turkey. And finally, but of course not least, Ferenc Bahidi, who is a professor at the Modern East Asia Research Group at the Pázmány Péter Catholic University of Budapest. Please welcome you all here in Budapest in this panel. It's an honor to have you here with all your different perspectives, which ranges from geopolitics to bond markets, so a very diverse range of topics. Also, I would again raise your attention to the fact that one of the presentations will be in Chinese, so you will probably need the translator machine. First, we will set out with individual presentations, and then we will have a discussion to which we welcome your most distinguished remarks and questions as well. So I would ask the first presenter, Mr. László György, to have his presentation. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. May I have the presenter, please? I have a presentation to show. Thank you. Oh, and it works. You won't see everything. I had the honor to participate on Belt and Road Forum last week and the week before the last in Beijing, and had the honor to be there to listen to President Xi Jinping's speech. What I concluded that this May 15th speech from Xi Jinping signaled that the startup period is over of the Belt and Road Initiative, or the One Belt, One Road Initiative. Today, I will give you a framework of those, so to say, proposals or parts of Xi Jinping's speech and other speech that shows that this initiative is rather, can be framed into a sustainable development path. What is One Belt, One Road Initiative, if we are trying to figure out what it is? We can talk about One Belt, One Road Initiative on three different layers. Thirdly, and not firstly, it's an economic project. We always emphasize the economic aspects of this project. This is an immense economic project. If we take a look at the Marshall Plan, the United States gave over to Europe $13 billion at that time, which is in 2016 dollars, $180 billion. Asia, without China, can absorb more than $900 billion in infrastructure development projects annually in the next 15 years. So it's an immense project connecting 4.4 billion people, 26 countries, 36% of the world's entire population, and roughly 1/3 of the world's economy. So it's an economic project, but it's not only an economic project, it's also a political project as well. China can lead the largest peacemaking effort of humankind in a geographical area where proxy wars were so common in the last century, and which was relatively very prosperous in the last 2,000 years, or 2,000 years ago when the Silk Road was still functioning. And I would like to reflect on Xi Jinping's speech, who said first we should build the Belt and Road into a road for peace. The ancient Silk routes thrived in times of peace, but lost vigor in times of war. The pursuit of the Belt and Road Initiative requires a peaceful and stable environment. We should foster a new type of international relations featuring win-win cooperation, and we should forge partnerships of dialogue with no confrontation and of friendship rather than alliance. All countries should respect each other's sovereignty, dignity, and territorial integrity, each other's development path and social systems, and each other's core interests and major concerns. And firstly, this project is a civilizational project, as I would like to consider it. I'm an economist, but I rather consider the One Belt, One Road initiative as a civilizational project, because through OBOR, civilization can join world politics and change the rules of the game to its better or worse, or it can stay or it can play the game as oldest empire. So they can continue playing the game of great power politics of the last few decades, or maybe 7 decades, what we experienced. And it would mean making businesses in line with its geopolitical concerns and short-term economic interests based on its vast bargaining power against its partners along one Belt and One Road zone. Yeah, I was there, I took this photo, and I would like to focus on 2 major things. We can consider One Belt, One Road initiative as 2 kinds of corporations. Either if we regard it as business actors or politicians, we're rather focusing on the short-term gains which we can win. If we are focusing on short-term gains, then we can get lost in the short-term gains and get to a situation, come to agreements which neglect the long-term drawbacks of such short-term gains. If we consider it as politicians, as statesmen, and philosophers, then we are focusing on the long-term gains. And here is the challenge. Here is the challenge: how we will build up the framework of the New Silk Road Cooperation, One Belt, One Road Cooperation. Will it focus on short-term gains? Will the decisions made based on bargaining power? Will the decisions made on business interests based on short-term gains? Or political interests based on short-term gains? Or will the decisions be based on long-term gains, in which not only businesses, not only politicians in democracies who are competing for the votes in every 4 years are gaining power and of course business benefits, but how can the One Belt, One Road initiatives serve the long-term perspectives? You don't see it, I see it. If we consider the OBOR as a short-term gain increasing initiative, then of course we have to take it into consideration that China has vast foreign exchange reserves, which it wants to lend out, tries to profit from it. And the other thing is China has huge infrastructure development capacities. He wants to hire 2 other countries along the One Belt and One Road. And this is the short-term imperative for China and for Chinese to create this initiative and to employ their people who are not anymore being employed only in China, because in China everything is built up. So if you go to China, you can see that its infrastructure is astonishing. Not only the physical infrastructure, but the communication infrastructure is also. But if we are focusing on long-term gains, then we can mention 12 points that lead or that show a kind of a short-term perspective from the Chinese as well. And I think our role here and our role along the One Belt and One Road to focus on these 12 points and make the One Belt, One Road initiative, a flourishing business in long term, not only for politicians, not only for business people, but for the societies as well. And for this reason, we need statesmen, and we need the academy and philosophers. Firstly, AIIB, Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, which was established by China, has different rules as the IMF or the World Bank. Despite of China taking the leading role in the establishment, and it holds an overwhelming 30% voting share, it offered to forego veto power in the AIIB, while we can see that the current institutions, Bretton Woods institutions, the United States is still maintaining its veto power. Well, we also have to underline that the last 70 years of international economic cooperation was much more peaceful than any other before in the modern era. So we have to compliment the United States on that, but we have to develop the world standards in order to create a more sustainable economic development. The second, when Chinese talk about the One Belt, One Road initiative, they are not talking about the China model or the Beijing consensus, but rather they are talking about One Belt, One Road initiative, New Silk Road. So they are talking about rather a concept in which everyone is involved. Thirdly, they are not talking about, when they are talking about their role, that they want to take leadership or they want to create alliances. They are talking about dialogue, partnership, and cooperation. Of course, these are only words, but these are meaningful words which we can fill with content. The next is community of shared destiny. Community of shared destiny. Can you help phrasing that? What's there on the first?
AIIB.
No, not AIIB. The fourth point. Mingjun, Wang Dongji, or how do you say? Okay, thank you very much. So we already know it. Sorry for my poor Chinese and sorry to interrupt you in your preparation. So President Xi Jinping mentioned 60 times community of shared destiny in the last few years when talking about One Belt, One Road initiative. Fifth, there is a saying from Confucius, not impose on others what you would not wish for yourself. Actually, we are very happy for it. We have the same in the Bible. We have the same in the Christian word. And the only thing why we are a little bit maybe cautious about that, because we are not living according to this. But we believe that with a new impetus coming from China, a new inspiration coming from China, we can really create a world in which we are not imposing on others what you otherwise would not wish for ourselves. Sixth point is Tianxia. Maybe I made it wrong. I said it wrong. Entails a sense of seeing all under the heaven as interconnected, while the notion of nation-state is based on the sharp distinction between what is mine and not mine. So there is a kind of an ideal word in the Chinese, what Plato also created in the ancient Greek times. And we have to, now as China joined this big world order creation, we have to underline Tianxia as ruling principle of cooperation. And now if we are turning towards what we can learn from Xi Jinping's speech a week ago, he said that we have to build on the 2,000 years old Silk Road's civilizational and cultural lessons to learn. The old Silk Road connected thousands of miles and years. The ancient Silk Roads embody the spirit of peace and cooperation, openness and inclusiveness, mutual learning and mutual benefit. The Silk Road spirit has become a great heritage of human civilization. And it is also very important that, still to the seventh point, that the Old Silk Road connected the birthplaces of Egyptian, Babylonian, Indian, and Chinese civilization, as well as the lands of Buddhism, Christianity, and Islam, and homes of people of different nationalities and races. These routes enabled people of various civilizations, religions, and races to interact with and embrace each other with an open mind. In the course of exchange, they fostered a spirit of mutual respect and were engaged in a common endeavor towards prosperity. That's what we can learn from the old Silk Road. It's also very important that there is an enhanced coordination with the policy initiative of relevant countries along the new Silk Road. As Xi Jinping put it, Belt and Road Initiative is not meant to reinvent the wheel. So while the Bretton Woods system was based on an idea which was created in Bretton Woods and was shaped around the interests of the global hegemon, Belt and Road Initiative really aims to complement the development strategies of countries involved by leveraging their comparative strengths. And there are some examples already which show that this is happening, this is going on. The Belt and Road Initiative have enhanced coordination with the policy initiatives of relevant countries, such as the Eurasian Economic Union of Russia, the Master Plan of Asian Connectivity, the Bright Road Initiative of Kazakhstan, the Middle Corridor Initiative of Turkey, the Development Road Initiative of Mongolia, the Two Corridors, One Economic Circle Initiative of Vietnam. So if we Hungarians or we Turks or anybody else along the New Silk Road has an idea, has a recommendations, of course, Chinese have their own interests, but they will listen to our initiatives and probably merge it into their own concept, which is very important. The ninth point is that Xi Jinping put an emphasis on that we have to establish a stable and sustainable financial safeguard system. He said it, so we can base on his words. So we can recommend, along with his words, how to create a stable and sustainable financial safeguard system, as he put it, that keeps risks under control, create new models of investment and financing, encourage greater cooperation between government and private capital, and build a diversified financing system and a multi-tiered capital market. 10th point, Xi Jinping underlined that China, with his partners, wants to establish a fair, equitable, and transparent system of international trade and investment rules. We know that the free trade of recent few decades were not so fair, rather free. Xi Jinping underlined that China, with its partners, would like to create an environment that will facilitate opening up and development, establish a fair, equitable, and transparent system of international trade and investment rules. We know now that China's exports to this region is higher than our exports to China. We established some connections which make us possible to export more. I think if Xi Jinping underlines these values, these principles, then we can build on this and build on this in our negotiations and in the practice as well. 11th point, there is the 5 principles of peaceful coexistence, which was also underlined by Xi Jinping, which means a different world order that was created by the previous hegemon, which is still intervening in the other countries' political systems in case of they see that their political decisions are not going or leading to a right way. What is the 5 principles of peaceful coexistence consists of? First, mutual respect for each other's territorial integrity and sovereignty. Second, mutual non-aggression. Third, mutual non-interference in each other's internal affairs. Fourth, equality and cooperation for mutual benefit. with peaceful coexistence. And the last point, the 12th point, is that it is also announced in the One Belt, One Road initiative, and it was stressed a week ago as well by President Xi Jinping, that we have to create a multi-tiered mechanism for cultural and people-to-people exchanges. So there is a room and there is money in cultural exchange, money for cultural exchange, science, academic, sport and healthcare cooperation. The amounts were also announced a week ago in Beijing. Finally, my last sentence and my last words, maybe my last paragraph today in my presentation, is that we are not naive, just simply idealists. My presentation was rather a wish in which way we would like to direct this cooperation along the One Belt and One Road. And of course, all countries and all partners along the One Belt, One Road have to understand the short-term interests of all actors, but have to create or have to try to create a framework for inclusive and thus sustainable economic development, because otherwise it will not be peaceful. That is what I think. Let's focus on sustainability and peaceful development. Thank you.
Thank you for Mr. László György for this presentation, for underlining again the fact that the Silk Road, the One Belt, One Road project is not merely an economic project, but also a political and a civilizational. Based on the text of the President Xi Jinping, we gained an insight of what this political civilizational layer of this project means. It is also about introducing new approaches to international relations, and we are very thankful for having this really first-hand insight.